The sound of metal echoed softly inside the old space station floating near Jupiter. Ethan Cole, a young human engineer, was working alone in the maintenance bay. His hands were covered in grease, his eyes tired but his focus sharp. He had been up since sunrise, fixing broken oxygen filters and worn-out circuits. Outside the thick glass window, Jupiter's red storms moved like giant angry eyes. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Today was Ethan's birthday. He had turned 28, but no one had remembered. Not his commander on Earth, not his few friends at the academy, not even the AI system that used to remind him of special days. He laughed quietly to himself. "Happy birthday, Ethan," he said, trying to sound cheerful, but deep inside, he felt the silence of space press heavier than usual. The station was old and half-abandoned, a research outpost that humanity no longer cared about. He had been sent there to run system checks. Alone for 6 months, no contact, no visitors, just messages from Earth once a week. Sometimes he wondered if they even remembered he was still out here. The quiet was endless, the kind that made a man talk to himself just to hear a voice. As he was repairing a broken console, a strange sound broke the silence. A soft static followed by a faint, trembling voice. At first he thought it was interference, maybe a ghost signal bouncing off the asteroids. But the sound came again, clearer this time. "More help, please." Ethan froze, his eyes wide, his breath catching in his throat. That voice did not sound human. He turned toward the communication screen, his fingers flying across the controls. The signal was weak, unstable, coming from somewhere beyond the asteroid field. No human ship was supposed to be there. The distress tone was strange too. Not from any known human emergency frequency. He ran it through the translator and the words appeared slowly. "Life. In danger. Oxygen low." Ethan's training told him to ignore unknown transmissions. The Galactic Command had strict rules. Never respond to unidentified signals. It could be a trap, a pirate lure, or worse, alien contact. Humans were not yet trusted in the galaxy. They had been allowed to expand into nearby space, but alien contact was still forbidden. Even one mistake could start a diplomatic disaster. But Ethan couldn't stop thinking about that voice. It sounded weak, terrified, alone. He looked at the empty cake packet floating beside his workstation, a gift he had bought for himself last month. Then he looked out at the stars. "What's one rule against saving someone's life?" he whispered. He switched the receiver to manual mode. Locking onto the signal, a map blinked on his screen, showing a point deep inside the asteroid belt. That was where the voice was coming from. The AI assistant spoke in its calm voice. "Ethan, protocol forbids contact with unidentified species." Ethan sighed. "Yeah, I know," he said, staring at the blinking red dot. "But if that voice belongs to someone dying out there, I can't just sit here." He grabbed his helmet and emergency kit. The lights flickered as he powered up the small scout ship attached to the station. Engines hummed and the docking clamps released. Outside, space looked endless and cold. The little ship moved silently between chunks of drifting rock and frozen dust. Ethan followed the signal, watching it grow stronger. His heart pounded faster with every passing minute. He didn't know what he was heading toward, danger or destiny, but he couldn't stop now as he approached the source. He saw something strange floating between two asteroids. It wasn't human technology, not any kind he recognized. A small silver pod, half destroyed, spinning slowly in the dark. Sparks of blue light flashed from its surface like it was trying to stay alive. The distress signal was coming directly from it. Ethan's eyes widened, his heart thudding against his chest. "This can't be real," he whispered. "It's alien." He knew what this meant. If he reported it, they would tell him to stay away, to leave it floating until a galactic team arrived. But that could take days, maybe weeks. Whoever was inside would be dead by then. He tightened his grip on the ship's controls. "Not today," he muttered. "No one dies on my birthday." As he got closer, he could see through the cracked glass of the pod. Something was moving inside, something alive, a shape curled up, gasping. Glowing faintly in the dark, it wasn't a threat. It was a being fighting for its life. Ethan's breath trembled as he whispered to himself, "Hang on, I'm coming." He reached for the docking claw, pulling the damaged pod toward his small ship. Warning alarms beeped, red lights flashed, but Ethan ignored them. His hands shook as he locked the pod in place outside. The stars shimmered cold and distant inside. Ethan Cole had just made a choice that would change everything. That day, A lonely human missed his birthday to save a stranger from another world, and the galaxy would never forget his name. Ethan's ship moved slowly through the dark field of asteroids. The damaged alien pod was locked to his craft, shaking slightly with every movement. He could hear the faint hum of power coming from it, like a heartbeat trying not to fade. The glowing cracks across its silver surface looked almost alive. Breathing light in and out, Ethan's mind raced, filled with fear, curiosity, and something else, and hope. He had dreamed about meeting life beyond Earth, but not like this, not in silence and blood. He guided the ship back toward his space station. His hands trembling on the controls, each second felt like a lifetime. Inside that pod, someone was dying, and he was the only one who could help. When the docking clamp sealed, he rushed to the airlock. The metallic door hissed open, releasing a faint mist and the smell of burnt metal. The pod was heavier than it looked, covered in strange symbols that pulsed with soft blue light. It almost felt like the metal itself was breathing. Ethan grabbed his cutting torch and carefully sliced through the cracked surface. Sparks flew, smoke rose, and a sound escaped, a weak, soft cry. He froze, his breath shaking. Then, through the opening, he saw her. The alien lay curled up, her skin shimmering like silver dust under moonlight. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her breath shallow and uneven. Her face was calm yet filled with pain, her eyelids fluttering as if she was trapped between life and death. Ethan knelt beside her, his heart pounding in disbelief. She wasn't like the terrifying creatures humans imagined. She looked peaceful, fragile, almost human. Except for the faint glow beneath her skin, it was as if light itself flowed through her veins. Her hands clutched her stomach, and Ethan suddenly understood. She was pregnant. His eyes widened. "Oh no," he whispered. "She's carrying a child." He ran to his medical kit, pulling out oxygen masks, scanners, and a thermal blanket. But nothing in his human equipment matched her biology. Her lungs were not taking in oxygen properly. Her skin temperature was dropping fast. He checked the air composition of the pod. It was rich in nitrogen and a strange gas he couldn't identify. His brain worked fast, mixing gases from his own life support system to recreate what she needed. It was a dangerous guess, and one mistake, and she could die instantly. The AI spoke again from the console. "Ethan, this action violates galactic safety protocol." He didn't even look up. "Then mark me as guilty," he said. "But I'm not letting her die." He adjusted the gas levels, watching her breathing slowly steady. Her fingers twitched, her chest rose a little higher. For the first time since finding her, Ethan allowed himself to exhale. "She's alive," he whispered, a small smile breaking through his fear. But that peace didn't last long. The ship's sensors began to blink red. An unknown signal appeared on the radar. Faint at first, then stronger. 3 ships moving fast. Closing in on his location, Ethan turned pale. "No, they tracked her signal," he said softly. He switched to defense mode, though his old station had no weapons. All he had were broken drones and a few repair lasers. He wasn't a soldier. He was an engineer. A man who fixed things, not fought wars. He looked back at the alien mother. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, glowing like liquid light. She whispered something, and her voice soft. Shaking, the translator slowly converted it. "My child. Not safe. They... coming." Ethan froze, a chill running down his spine. "Who's coming?" he asked, leaning close. But her eyes closed again, her breath weak, her body glowing faintly with stress. Outside, the sensors showed the 3 ships getting closer. Their energy readings were far more advanced than any human ship. They weren't human, that much was clear. Ethan's heart pounded as he looked at her, this alien mother, this stranger who had fallen into his lonely world. He couldn't abandon her now, not after hearing her voice. He remembered how the stars had looked on his way here, vast and empty, and he realized maybe this was why he was sent here, not to fix machines, but to save a life. He worked quickly, moving her pod to the medical bay and sealing the doors. He turned off all lights except a faint red emergency glow. The station went dark and silent like a ghost ship. Outside, the radar flickered as the 3 unknown crafts stopped nearby. Ethan watched their shadows move across the asteroid field like predators searching for prey. He whispered to himself, "You're safe here. I won't let them find you." Minutes felt like hours. The alien mother was breathing better now. Though still unconscious, Ethan sat beside her, watching the strange light pulse softly from under her skin. He wondered what kind of world she came from. What kind of laws would send hunters after a dying mother? He thought about Earth. About how humans still fought over land and pride while the stars hid much darker secrets. He leaned his head back, exhaustion hitting him. His eyes began to close, but before he drifted off, he heard her voice again. Very soft, very faint, but clear. "Thank you, human." Ethan smiled weakly in the dim red light. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight, on his forgotten birthday, he had saved someone who was never supposed to meet him. Somewhere beyond the stars, laws were already breaking. And the galaxy had just taken its first breath of change. The red warning lights glowed softly inside the space station. Ethan Cole stood near the medical bay. His heart pounding in his chest, the alien mother lay on the table. Surrounded by makeshift medical tools and glowing wires, she was breathing now slowly, but her pulse was weak. Outside, the radar screen showed 3 unknown ships still circling the asteroid field. They hadn't attacked yet, but he could feel it. They were searching for her. He tried to stay calm. He checked the air levels, the temperature, the gas mix he had created to keep her alive. It was a strange combination of nitrogen, oxygen, and trace elements he didn't even recognize. He didn't know how long it would keep her stable. His fingers trembled as he adjusted the flow. "Hang on," he whispered. "Just hang on a little longer." The translator device blinked beside her, picking up weak signals from her body. Suddenly her eyes opened, bright, glowing almost liquid silver. She looked at him with fear, confusion, and pain. Her lips moved, and the translator spoke in a soft, broken tone. "Human. Why, help me." Ethan stared at her, surprised. He swallowed hard. "Because you needed it," he said quietly. "You were dying. I couldn't just walk away." She blinked slowly, struggling to understand. Her hand reached toward him, trembling. "Law forbid. This you punished." Ethan gave a small smile. "Yeah, probably," he said. "But I don't care about the law right now." The alien mother's eyes softened, a faint shimmer passing across her face. She whispered something else. The words came through the translator as a soft echo. "My child must live. They will kill." Ethan's stomach dropped. He turned toward the radar. The 3 black ships were getting closer. Their energy readings spiked. "They're scanning for life signs," he muttered. "They know you're here." He quickly shut down the station's power, plunging everything into near darkness. The only light came from her glowing skin and the dim red of the emergency beacons. He moved fast, sealing the bay doors and activating the manual lockdown. He pulled up a map of the asteroid field on the main screen. If he could block their sensors with interference, maybe he could buy some time. He used his engineering tools to reprogram old mining drones outside the station. He sent them drifting away, each carrying pieces of metal that reflected energy signals. The hunter's scanners would see hundreds of false echoes. "Come on, take the bait," he whispered, watching the screen, and they did. The ships turned toward the decoy drones, firing plasma shots into empty space. Ethan let out a shaky breath. That'll keep them busy for a while. He turned back to the alien mother. She was still breathing shallowly, her skin flickering like fading starlight. He could see something strange near her stomach, a glowing mark pulsing softly. He scanned it with his tools, and his heart stopped for a second. Her child wasn't just alive, and it was growing fast, much faster than human biology. "It's premature," he muttered. "She's not ready, but the stress, it's forcing the birth." He grabbed his med kit and did what he could, checking her vitals, stabilizing her temperature. The AI spoke again, cold and robotic. "Warning, Ethan Cole, unauthorized alien contact detected. Galactic Command has been notified." Ethan slammed his hand on the console. "Cancel transmission." "Unable to comply," said the AI. He froze. That meant Earth would know soon, and then the entire galactic network would know. He'd be labeled a traitor, maybe even a criminal. But he didn't care, not anymore. He disconnected the AI completely, cutting off the main communication lines. The station was now isolated, invisible to both Earth and the aliens outside. He sat beside her again, wiping sweat from his forehead. Her breathing slowed, her hand weakly grabbing his wrist. She whispered something again. "Human, brave, or foolish." Ethan smiled tiredly. "Maybe both," he said softly. "But I can't let you die." Then the lights flickered again. A sudden tremor shook the station. One of the alien ships had fired a small energy pulse. The walls vibrated, tools fell from the shelves, and sparks flew from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed onto the table, shielding her body with his own. Alarms screamed through the dark corridors. He could hear metal groaning, the sound of something massive outside scraping against the hull. "They found us," he whispered. The alien mother's eyes opened again, glowing bright this time. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Child, coming, cannot, stop." Ethan's eyes widened. "Now? No, you're too weak." But it was happening. Her body glowed brighter, energy waves moving through the air like light and water. The translator sparked, unable to keep up with the surge. Her cries filled the room, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ethan tried to hold her hand, his heart racing. He had no idea how to deliver an alien child. He searched every medical file in the database, but there was nothing. He was alone, surrounded by darkness, hunted by unknown ships, and yet in that chaos, he didn't feel fear anymore. He felt purpose. He wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was a protector. The life of two beings now depended on him. As the lights flickered one last time, Ethan whispered to the stars outside the window, "Please, whoever you are out there, let me save her." And deep in the void, the three hunter ships moved closer again, their lights glowing like eyes in the dark. The war for one alien life had begun, and humanity had just taken its first step into forbidden territory. The space station floated silently among the asteroids, surrounded by shadows and dust. Inside, Ethan Cole sat in darkness, his breathing quiet, his heart racing. The alien mother lay unconscious on the table, glowing faintly like a dying star. Her pulse was weak, her body trembling, and the faint hum of machines filled the air. He had done everything he could to help her, but now her fate depended on time and luck. The radar blinked again. 3 black ships appeared on the screen, sharp, triangular, moving in perfect formation. Their engines made no sound. Only the faint distortion of space around them. Ethan stared at the monitor, whispering, "They're here." The hunters had arrived. They were unlike any ships he had seen before. No markings, no signals, no heat signatures. Their design looked almost alive, as if metal and muscle had fused together. He zoomed in on one of them and saw small flickers of blue light moving across its surface, like veins pulsing with energy. Whatever species built them, they were far more advanced than humans. Ethan switched off the last remaining lights in the station. The whole structure went completely dark, blending into the asteroid shadows. Only the soft glow of the alien mother's body illuminated the room. He looked at her and whispered, "You brought them here, didn't you?" But his tone wasn't angry. It was full of worry. He knew she hadn't chosen this. She was running from something terrible. The ships moved closer, scanning the area with beams of red light. Ethan crawled to the control panel, trying to steady his shaking hands. He rerouted the power to shield systems, though the station's defenses were decades old. It wasn't built for war. It was built for science and repair. Still, he had to try. He whispered to himself, "Come on, old girl. Hold together." The scanners hit the outer hull, sending a vibration through the walls. Metal groaned, dust fell from the ceiling, and one of the warning panels sparked. Ethan froze, praying they wouldn't detect a life form inside. But then, the alien mother stirred, gasping for air, her eyes flickering open. Her voice came out weak. "They find us! Run!" Ethan shook his head. "I can't leave. The station can't outrun those things." Her hand reached out, glowing faintly as it touched his arm. Her skin was cold, trembling. "Hide, baby, safe," she whispered before falling unconscious again. Ethan looked at her belly. The faint blue light pulsed beneath it like a heartbeat. He knew what she meant. Her child was coming soon, and if the hunters found them, neither would survive. He ran toward the engineering bay, dragging cables, oxygen tanks, and power cells. He needed to make the station look destroyed, a wreck, dead and empty. He activated old mining drones and programmed them to fly out and explode at random. The first blast shook the asteroid belt, sending debris spinning through space. Then another explosion followed. The hunters' radars filled with false signals and shattered energy readings. "Come on, believe it," Ethan muttered. "Believe it's all gone." The ships paused. Scanning again, Ethan held his breath, every muscle in his body tense. Finally, one of the ships turned away, moving slowly toward the debris field. Then the second followed. But the third, the largest, stayed. Its scanners focused directly on the station. Ethan could feel the air hum as it charged a weapon. A bright red glow formed beneath its hull. "Oh no," he whispered, diving to the floor. The blast hit. A wave of energy ripped through the outer wall, throwing him backward. Panels shattered, sparks flew, and smoke filled the room. He coughed, his ears ringing, trying to stand up. Half the lights flickered back to life from the power surge. The alien mother's table slid sideways. Almost crashing into the wall, Ethan crawled toward her. Pulling the table back and checking her pulse, she was alive. Barely. He looked toward the window. A massive hole burned into the hull. If one more shot hit, they were finished. He grabbed a welding torch and started sealing cracks as best as he could. He worked fast, ignoring the cuts on his hands and the burning smell of metal. Outside, the remaining hunter ship moved lower. Scanning again, its red lights swept over the station. And for a moment, Ethan saw something horrifying. Through the glass viewport, a figure moved inside the enemy ship. Tall, armored, its eyes glowing white. He had no doubt now, these weren't machines. They were alive, and they wanted the alien mother dead. Ethan turned back to his ship's control panel. He sent an emergency signal toward Jupiter's outer relay, hoping someone might hear. Then he powered down everything again, plunging the station back into silence. The hunter ship hovered close. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly it turned away, disappearing into the asteroid fog. Ethan dropped to his knees, shaking with relief. He had survived the first wave, but deep inside he knew they'd be back. They wouldn't stop until the alien mother and her unborn child were gone. He looked at her again, lying unconscious but still glowing softly. He whispered, "You're safe for now, but I don't know for how long." He walked toward the viewport. Staring out at the empty stars, pieces of metal drifted by. Remains of his fake explosions. The silence returned, but it no longer felt peaceful. It felt heavy, waiting. He knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, the hunters were regrouping, preparing their next move. And Ethan Cole, one lonely human engineer, had just become their enemy. The galaxy's most forbidden rescue had only just begun. The station floated like a wounded ghost among the silent asteroids. Its metal walls burned and cracked from the hunters' last attack. Inside, the lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. Ethan Cole sat beside the alien mother, his face pale, his hands trembling from exhaustion. The sound of his breathing echoed in the still air. Mixing with the faint hum of broken machines, he had managed to patch the hull, seal the cracks and keep the oxygen flowing. But the air felt heavy now, thick with fear and uncertainty. The alien mother lay on the table, her body glowing faintly blue, her breath uneven. The glow from her skin had grown brighter near her stomach. It pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and strong. Ethan watched it in silence, realization slowly settling in. "The child," he whispered. "It's coming." He tried to contact Earth again, but the communication array was still offline. The AI system remained disconnected, its cold voice gone. He was truly alone, one human against the vast, merciless galaxy. He looked at the alien mother. Her eyes fluttered open. Weak but aware, her voice was soft, trembling. "Human." "It is time." Ethan's chest tightened. "No, not now," he said. "You're too weak. You need rest." But she shook her head slowly, her hand reaching toward him. "Child? Cannot wait. Must be born." Now Ethan's mind raced. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't even trained for human childbirth. He had no idea how to help an alien mother. But when he saw the pain in her eyes, he knew he had no choice. He transformed the cargo bay into a temporary delivery room. He brought blankets, heating lamps, and medical tools from every part of the station. He cleaned his hands with sterilizing gel, his heart pounding in his chest outside. Debris floated silently past the window. The only sound inside was her breathing, quick, strained, desperate. He knelt beside her, holding her hand. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here. You're not alone." Her body began to glow brighter, waves of blue light rippling across the room. The air felt charged with strange energy, as if the station itself could feel it. Ethan shielded his eyes for a moment, his tools shaking in his grip. Then he saw her face, not in pain but in determination. Her species was strong, built for survival. Even in fear, she cried out. And the translator struggled to keep up. "Life must continue. Protect child." He nodded quickly, tears forming in his eyes. He didn't understand her fully, but he felt her meaning. He could see her strength fading as the child's glow grew brighter. He had to act fast. He used scanners to monitor her vitals, adjusting the oxygen mix to keep her stable. Her skin shimmered like starlight, and her breath came in short bursts. Then suddenly, a burst of light filled the room. Ethan stepped back, covering his face. The glow was blinding, bright as a sunrise. When it faded, he saw something small in her arms. A child, tiny, fragile, and glowing faintly with the same silver-blue light. The baby let out a soft sound, almost like a hum, not a cry, but a melody. It was beautiful and strange, echoing through the bay like music from another world. Ethan's hands shook as he approached. The mother looked at him weakly, smiling through her exhaustion, her eyes filled with gratitude and peace. He gently wrapped the child in his thermal jacket. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "You're safe now. Both of you." The baby reached out with small, glowing fingers, touching his wrist. The touch sent a warmth through him, calm and pure. He smiled despite the chaos around them. For a brief moment, the galaxy felt kind again. But peace never lasted long in space. The radar blinked red once more. Ethan froze. Looking up at the screen, the hunters had returned. 3 ships again, closing in fast. The explosions he created earlier had fooled them only for a short while. "They're coming back," he whispered, his voice tight with fear. He looked at the alien mother. Her body was weak. Fading, her eyes met his, and she whispered faintly, "Take, child, I go." Ethan shook his head. "No, I'm not leaving you." Her hand trembled as she reached for him, pressing something cold into his palm. It was a small silver crystal glowing softly. Her voice was barely a breath. "Child needs this. Protect her future." Her glow began to dim, her breathing slowing. Ethan's throat tightened. His chest heavy with grief. He wanted to save her, but he knew she had already given everything. He held the child close, wrapping her tighter. The baby's glow flickered, reacting to the mother's fading light. Ethan felt his eyes burn with tears. He whispered softly, "I'll protect her. I promise." The alien mother looked at him one last time. A single tear, shimmering like liquid silver, rolled down her cheek. Then she went still, her glow fading into soft darkness. Ethan sat there in silence, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. The child's small hum filled the room again, gentle and pure. Outside, the hunters drew closer, their shadows falling over the broken station. Ethan wiped his eyes and stood up. He looked at the child in his arms and whispered, "They'll never have you." He turned toward the escape pod, activating its power cells. It wasn't much, but it was fast and small enough to slip through the asteroids. As the engines roared to life, Ethan glanced back one last time at the still body of the alien mother. "Rest now," he whispered. "You gave the stars a new life." The pod door closed, sealing the promise he had made outside. Red light from the hunter ships grew brighter. Inside, Ethan Cole held the future of 2 worlds in his arms, and the galaxy's quiet darkness prepared to witness humanity's greatest act of courage. The escape pod cut through the asteroid belt like a silver arrow in the dark. Behind it, the space station burned quietly, pieces drifting away into endless black. Ethan Cole held the newborn alien child close against his chest. Her soft glow flickered, reflecting off the glass of the pod's tiny window. Outside, the hunter ships roamed through the wreckage, searching for life. Ethan kept the pod's power low, hiding its signal. His hands shaking on the controls, he didn't look back. He couldn't. Behind him lay the sacrifice of a mother who trusted him with her last breath. Before him stretched the unknown, an entire galaxy that would see his act as a crime. But in his heart he felt no guilt, only purpose. He whispered softly, "I'll keep you safe." No matter what, the child stirred, her small hand glowing faintly as it touched his arm. The warmth spread through him again. Calm and strange, he looked down and smiled faintly. "You're strong just like her." But then, the pod's console beeped. A communication alert, an incoming signal. Ethan's blood ran cold when he saw the source, Galactic Patrol. He hesitated, finger hovering over the receiver. If he didn't respond, they might think he was an enemy and destroy him. If he did, they would see the child and arrest him for violating interspecies law. He took a deep breath and pressed the button. A holographic image appeared, a human officer in silver armor. "Ethan Cole. This is Commander Voss of the Galactic Council," the voice said sharply. You are ordered to surrender your vessel and prepare for inspection. Ethan swallowed hard. Commander, please. There's a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, the officer interrupted coldly. You are under investigation for unauthorized contact with a non-human life form. Ethan's heart pounded. He looked at the child, innocent, peaceful, glowing softly in his arms. She was dying, he said, voice trembling. Her mother was hurt. I couldn't just leave her. The commander's hologram stared at him, unmoved. The purity law forbids human interference with alien biology, Voss said. You have broken that law. Ethan clenched his fists, anger rising in his chest. Then your law's broken, he said, because it values rules over life. The commander's eyes narrowed. You don't understand what you've done. Oh, I understand perfectly, Ethan said, his voice stronger now. I saved a life, something your council seems to have forgotten how to do. For a moment, there was silence, then the commander sighed. Ethan Cole, if you do not surrender immediately, we will use force. Ethan looked at the glowing child again and whispered, I'm sorry. He cut the transmission and powered up the engines. The pod shot forward, weaving between asteroids as plasma bolts lit up the void behind him. The galactic ships were fast, but Ethan was desperate, and desperation made him brave. He maneuvered through a dense field of rocks. Each turn scraping the hull, the pod rattled violently. Alarm screaming, the child cried softly, the light around her flickering. Ethan held her tight with one hand and steered with the other. Almost there, he whispered, just hold on. A plasma shot grazed the pod's wing, sending sparks across the cabin. The control panel smoked, and the navigation screen blinked out. Ethan's face was pale, but his eyes were steady. He didn't care if he lived. He just needed her to survive. Finally, through the chaos, he saw it. Jupiter's communication relay, a massive satellite hub orbiting the planet, still partly under human control. If he could reach it, he could send a broadcast to all of humanity, not to beg for mercy but to tell the truth. He activated the manual beacon and began transmitting. Emergency message. This is Ethan Cole, he said, voice shaking but clear. I broke the galactic law to save a life, and I'd do it again. He turned on the live visual feed, holding the child up for the camera. The tiny alien blinked, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. This is her, Ethan said. She's not a weapon, she's not a threat. She's a child, he paused, breathing heavily. If saving her is a crime, then maybe humanity should start breaking more laws. The message went live across the network. It spread through human colonies, space stations, and every planet where humans lived. People watched in silence as a lonely engineer defied the galaxy. Some cried, some cheered. But none turned away. The story of Ethan Cole, the man who missed his birthday to save a mother and her child, began to spread like fire. The Galactic Council's ships surrounded his pod moments later. He was out of time, out of fuel, but not out of courage. He held the child close, whispering softly, No matter what happens next, you'll live. The Council's voice came through again. Ethan Cole, surrender now. Ethan looked up at the stars, so wide, so endless, and smiled faintly. I already did what I came to do, he said quietly. Then he powered down the pod, letting it drift into silence. When the Council forces boarded, they found Ethan unconscious. The child was safe, wrapped in his jacket, her small glow illuminating his face. The news spread faster than light. Some called him a criminal. Others called him a hero. But for humanity, something had changed. They saw in him a reflection of their best self, the kind that chooses compassion over fear. For the first time in history, humans stood united in protest against the galactic law. One man's act had defied the stars. The stars above Earth shone brighter that night. News of Ethan Cole had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. His message, the one he sent before the Galactic Council arrested him, had reached billions. On every colony, every station, every ship that carried a human crew, people were talking about the same man, the human who broke the oldest law in the galaxy. Not for power, not for glory, but to save a single life. The Galactic Council tried to silence the message, but it was too late. Human broadcasters replayed Ethan's words again and again. This is her. She's not a threat. She's a child. Those simple words echoed through systems that had never cared about humanity before. Even some alien races began to question the Council's laws. because in the act of saving one alien child, Ethan had reminded the stars what life truly meant. In a hidden medical base on the moon, the alien child lay asleep in a containment pod. Her tiny chest rose and fell softly, glowing with that faint blue light that Ethan once held close. Scientists from Earth gathered around her, studying, protecting, and caring for her. She grew faster than anyone expected, her body adapting to human air. Her heart beating stronger each day. The doctors named her Lyra, after the constellation that symbolized harmony. It was Ethan's last request before he was taken into custody. Ethan himself sat in a small cell within the Galactic Court's main ship. His face pale, his eyes tired but calm, he didn't regret his choice. He looked through the glass at the stars beyond and smiled softly. He had no idea that his story had already reached millions. He thought he would die alone, forgotten, but out there, the universe was already changing because of him. The day of his trial arrived. Dozens of alien ambassadors gathered in the Grand Hall, beings of light, energy, stone, and water. At the center stood Ethan Cole, dressed in a simple gray uniform. He looked small among them, but his voice carried across the chamber like thunder. The High Chancellor spoke coldly. "Ethan Cole, you stand accused of breaking the purity law, of aiding and concealing a forbidden species. Do you understand the punishment for such crimes?" Ethan lifted his head slowly, his voice steady. "Yes," he said, "I understand." "Then why did you do it?" the Chancellor asked. Ethan paused, then smiled faintly. "Because it was the right thing to do." The room fell silent. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "You risk the stability of countless worlds for one dying alien." Ethan took a deep breath. "You call it risk," he said. "I call it humanity." The words echoed through the hall. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably. Others stared in silence. Ethan continued. "You created laws to keep us apart, to stop compassion from crossing species. But life doesn't follow laws. Life saves life. For a long time, no one spoke. Then, a soft sound came from the upper chamber. It was the sound of the galactic translators echoing new messages. One by one, the alien ambassadors began to speak. "The child lives," said one. "She is healthy," said another. "She sings," whispered a voice from the far side of the room. Ethan's eyes widened, his heart pounding. Lyra, the alien child, had made a sound no human could describe. A sound that resonated with every being who heard it. It wasn't a word, but it carried peace, warmth, and something ancient of understanding. That sound changed everything. The Chancellor's expression softened for the first time. The Galactic Court didn't see Ethan as a criminal. They saw him as a symbol, a reminder that laws could be wrong, that compassion was stronger than fear. The trial ended not with a sentence, but with silence, and that silence became history. Months passed. Ethan was released quietly under observation, but the truth was clear. They couldn't punish him without breaking their own new rule. He returned to Earth, where the stars no longer seemed so distant. Lyra, now a small child, lived under human care, protected by both humans and a few brave aliens who believed in her future. Her laughter filled the halls of the research base. Her touch healed dying plants. Her voice calmed even the coldest soldiers. No one could explain it, but everyone who met her felt the same thing, and peace. Years later, when Lyra grew older, she visited the place where her mother had died. She stood beneath Jupiter's endless storms, her eyes glowing like silver moons. Ethan, older now, stood beside her, proud and quiet. She looked up at him and said softly, "My mother said you saved me." Ethan smiled faintly. "She saved me first." He never became rich, never became famous, but his name was written into every school, every history book, every heart that still believed in kindness. On every planet where humans lived, a statue of him stood tall, a man holding a small glowing child in his arms. Looking toward the stars, at the base of each statue were the same words. He missed his birthday to save an alien mother, and reminded the galaxy what it means to be human. When Ethan Cole finally passed away many years later, Lyra stood alone under a sky filled with shooting stars. She whispered softly to the wind, "Sleep well, my friend. Your heart changed the stars, and somewhere, across the endless galaxies, the light of humanity burned a little brighter. Because one man had chosen compassion over law, and his courage had taught the universe what true humanity looked like,